Hello, my Mountain View family, and stand by for news. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get started, though, this is a challenge going out to the Moose Connection kid, all of you out there. Hey, have you guys seen this thing that's going on, they got going on in the Bay Area of California, that people are putting teddy bears in their windows? So as the children are going by, getting their daily exercise, going out for walks and so on, what they're doing is it's almost like a scavenger hunt. They're counting to see how many stuffed bears they can find in their windows. So one of the things I'm challenging you Moose Connection kids is, hey, put a stuffed animal in your window just to get a little shout out or a hello to the children that are out there getting their exercise in and on their animal hunt. If you have one, hey, find a moose, stuffed moose. That'd be great to put in there. Moving on to national headlines, for those of you that are in Government One. There's some interesting news going on out there, is that if we're looking at government class, is that a lot of people are considering, hey, let's start voting by mail. Joe Biden said Sunday that the Democratic National Convention, already delayed until August because of the coronavirus, may need to take place online as the pandemic continues to reshape the White House, and this is from the Associated Press. He says the party may have to do virtual convention, the former vice president said. The idea of holding the convention is going to be necessary. We may not be able to put in 10, 20, or 30,000 people in one place, he told ABC this week, calling on an online convention very possible. Biden has a commanding lead in the number of delegates needed to secure his party's presidential nomination at the convention in Milwaukee, originally scheduled for mid-July. Democrats hope that an early gathering would give the party more time to unify around a nominee who could defeat President Donald Trump in November, but officials announced on Thursday that they were tracking the unprecedented step of postponing the convention until August, just before the Republican National Convention is scheduled. So, interesting stuff. We're not the only ones going online, it looks like, out there. They're starting to look like things are going to go with this. Possibly with more national politics. Other things going on in national politics. This is from CNN. Just 8 governors have decided against issuing statewide directives urging their residents to stay at home as the outbreak of the coronavirus escalates and spreads across the country, and the last holdouts in the nation. The governors, all of whom are Republican, have offered a variety of explanations for why they have not followed the lead of their colleagues from coast to coast, along with countries across the world, by ordering people to restrict their movement in hopes of slowing the pandemic. In doing so, they've basically collectively ignored the pleas of Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, who said in an interview, "If you look at what's going on in this country, I just don't understand why we're not doing that." Absent a nationwide order, which President Trump once again on Saturday declined to give, a patchwork of rules has emerged from all corners of the country that offer conflicting guidance for how citizens should protect themselves and their families from the coronavirus. So that's a really interesting thing for us to look at, both in Government One and Government Two. Where does the real power lie, and why should we have it? One of the things you guys got to think about when in our constitutional style government, constitutional republic, for those of you that have studied in Mrs. Bowler's class, is that it is just that, as a republic. It's made up of several different states. And we have the federal government to kind of keep the states in order. So one of the things I want to challenge the Government One class to do is I want you guys to go out and I want you to find something for me. There's like 4 different ways that the state or government evolved. And I want you to, if you have the ability, I want you to go and find those 4 ideas or theories on how government has evolved. I'll give you a hint. The first one is called the evolutionary theory. So if you can find the evolutionary theory of how the state evolved, you can probably find the others from there. Okay, but again, there's only 4. Keep it simple. Don't go really crazy. And I'm going to have a post on the Google Classroom for you guys to go ahead and just post your findings. That's all I need from you, is just, hey, these are the 4 things. Use your own words on it. Don't cut and paste. We're not silly. Okay, just use your own words. I'm not looking for a huge text for the answer. If you can just give it to me, I'll be glad to hear it. As we're wrapping up things for first block, one of the things I also want you to consider is the Supreme Court declines to hear a religious clash on Washington Transit ads. So one of the things that we're going to be studying over the course of Government One is the different branches. So of course, we have the legislative branch, which is the House and Senate, make law. We're going to be looking at the executive branch as well, which is currently the president, and we have President Trump in the executive branch. And of course, we'll be looking at the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, and they make a lot of decisions. So, according to Reuters, this is from the Reuters news group, the U.S. Supreme Court on Monday declined to hear a religious rights dispute brought on by the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Washington against the Washington Area Transit Authority over its policy against allowing advertisements in its stations and on buses and trains on divisive issues, including religion. The conservative majority court, which usually is receptive to religious rights claims, declined to review the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority's 2015 policy that bars political, religious, and advocacy advertisements on the transportation system that serves the U.S. Capital Region. One of the 9 justices, conservative Brett Kavanaugh, would not have been able to participate due to his prior service on a court that previously dealt with this case. That means that the court would have turned out to be a 4-4 split between its liberal and conservative justices, leaving the conservative majority unable to ensure a victory in the case. Because the full court is unable to hear this case, it makes a poor candidate for our review, conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch wrote in a statement regarding the court's action. If Kavanaugh had participated, our intervention and reversal would be warranted, Gorsuch added. So once again, what the Supreme Court is trying to do there is how do we separate church and state and things like that, and what we have the ability to do, or what certain groups have the ability. So in case of the bus system, which is a privately run system, or a state-run system, not private rather, do religious groups have the right to advertise on them? It's hard to say. Moving forward then, I've already issued my challenge to, again, first block, so go look into those things, again, those 4 theories of how the state evolved. Before I move on to page 2, I would encourage you people to make sure that you're checking up with the Mountain View Facebook page. All the greatest and latest information of what's going on with the school is going to be there. So make sure that you're checking that every day. And if you can, if those of you have already joined Mrs. Atzett's Facebook group, go ahead and join that and see what's going on with there, see what's shaking. Another real great way to have an outreach with your peers and your teachers, and just keeping up with each other. Again, like I'm going to be saying later, social distancing does not mean social isolation. Moving on to state news. This from the Magic Valley. One of the things that is really interesting what's going on is that there's lots of things going on at the state level that gets kind of washed out in all the coronavirus updates. But in Idaho, U.S. officials are using the coronavirus pandemic to force through a long-delayed Idaho livestock grazing allotment decision in critical sage grouse habitat for powerful agribusiness and environmental group says. First time, a little nervous here yet. The Wildlands Defense is asking the Bureau of Land Management to delay its March 20 decision approving an Idaho-based J.R. Simplot Company's permit on about 94 square miles in southwestern Idaho for at least 10,500 cattle until the virus abates. The director of the Idaho Bureau, John Roos, has refused. It is not clear when the agency will issue a final decision, and which will start a 30-day appeals process. The Woodlands Defense says the Bureau's appeal process is requiring in-person trips to the U.S. Postal Service to send or acknowledge receipt of certified mail by dozens of people puts communities at risk. This group said the Bureau's requirement is also violates Governor Brad Little's March 25th stay-at-home order. In the midst of a pandemic, they issue a proposed grazing decision, said Katie Feit, Public Lands Director for Wildlands Defense, noting that the Bureau had put the decision off for 20 years. I'm deeply concerned about the timing of this decision. Clearly, Idaho BLM is not interested in the health of the public. So as we're going on through this pandemic, there are still things going on within our state and federal governments, and this is no exception. So again, really interesting stuff that is coming out of Boise. Other things coming out of the next newspaper that I have here from the Idaho Statesman. Some interesting news, and many of you are just getting ready to vote or just under the age of majority. But one of the things that you might hear about is that Idaho voters, your primary election ballots are about to be mailed. Idaho does have a primary coming up, and one of the things that they're going to, because of the outbreak, is they're starting that the primary ballots are going to be sent out in mail. So Idaho is getting ready to conduct its first statewide election by mail only, but not by choice. This from the Idaho Statesman. Because of the coronavirus outbreak and concerns that some countries would not, or counties rather, would not be able to secure enough polling places or poll workers, every voter who wants to cast a ballot and was still being called the May 19 primary must do so by mail, and they have until June 2nd to get it done. So again, if your parents get a ballot in the mail, they have to have that returned by June 2nd. Now again, this is a primary, okay, and so not everybody is required to vote or you need to vote. If you do vote, you are going to have to make a decision whether you want to vote as a Democrat or Republican. If you choose either side, you're not going to be able to, they won't count your ballot. So in a primary, you have to declare yourself to be a Democrat or a Republican. And many people don't vote in primaries because of that. But if you get such a thing and you feel that you want to take part in the primary process, again, you'll have to just declare yourself a Democrat or Republican. Because, again, from the newspaper article, because this is a state primary, voters will have to indicate which ballot they want to receive, Constitution, Democrat, or Republican. Because Idaho Republican primaries are closed, only voters who have affiliated with the GOP may reserve a ballot. All ballot request forms must be submitted online or received by the county's clerk office by 8 p.m. on Tuesday, May 19th. So again, if you want one or your parents are interested in such thing, you need to make sure that you have gotten a hold of the county clerk's office here in Kootenai County by May 19th to get your primary ballot. And the last thing coming out of Lewiston, Idaho could decide the fate of spring sports today, and actually a lot more than that going on today. From the Lewiston Morning Tribune, D-Day might be upon us here in the state of Idaho for high school sports, as State Board of Education could decide today whether to keep schools open for the rest of the academic year because of the coronavirus outbreak. There are two possible votes that are on the agenda when the Idaho State Board of Education will live stream. It's a special meeting today at 2 p.m. Pacific. In its agenda that was posted on Friday on the group's website, it could decide to close all school buildings for the remainder of the academic year. It could also decide to extend its soft closure mandate. It made March 24th, which is why we're doing what we're doing now. And that continues through April 20th to a date to be determined. The soft closure bans from buildings from being open, but educators should continue distance learning, and meals should be distributed to those students and families in need. Now, again, if you haven't gotten your meals, make sure that you're getting them. Of course, they're going to be at the Lakeland Junior High and other places. As the public pandemic has progressed, additional models and guidance from the state health officials indicate that virus is likely to peak in Idaho in late April or early May. The materials posted on the website read, at the time of the board set April 10th, it's committed to reevaluate the timeline as the crisis developed in Idaho. The board will have the opportunity to discuss the timeline in light of the updated information, as well as additional areas of consideration that have been identified during the governor's K-12 emergency council meetings. One of the things that also the article goes on to state, it could mean two things for high school sports. If the board decides to close schools, then the remainder of the academic year, that would end interscholastic activities as well as for the year, which would mean all high school sports would be finished until the new academic year begins. So we're going to have to see what happens here. There's a big meeting both for sports and what's going to happen for schools going on today and the State Board of Education meeting. And that wraps things up for government 2. Moving on to entertainment. So if you all are in acting class, there's a couple of different things I want you guys to keep in mind. First off, there's some movies, and Mrs. Williams is going to probably beat me up for saying this, but if you're stuck inside, Netflix is suggesting several movies to check out while you're stuck inside, and one of them is Hairspray. So I haven't seen Hairspray, be sure to check that out. Another one, an older movie, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Now this movie is a great movie. Now it's all got like English subtitles, but a great movie, old movie, but you'll like it. Of course, they have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is also mentioned on there. One of a new movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, very popular around the Gordon household, if you haven't realized that already. And of course, one that I think I'm going to be watching is Inception, a Leo DiCaprio movie. Haven't seen that one, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it. as you're watching, one of the things I challenge the acting class, and you're going to have to respond to it out on the Google Classroom, is I want you to look up for me before you watch these movies, is I want you to find for me the 6 elements of drama. That's something we got to study, we got to be aware about. So there are 6 elements of drama that I want you to look up. You can find it anywhere on Google, just look it up, and then I want you to post it on the Google Classroom what you found. Okay. Again, like before, like I challenged the others, use your own words, don't just cut and paste it. It's okay. I just want to know what you've seen and what you think it is, and we can have discussion on it later. But please be aware that as you're looking for those 6 elements of drama, just don't cut and paste it. That you be sure to internalize it a little bit and have a look at what's there. Weather that we got coming up here for the next couple of days. Today is supposed to be partly cloudy, 54 for a high today. The wind's out of the southwest, 10 miles an hour, so it's good to get outside. So now I've said something nice, so Mrs. Williams won't beat me up if you guys don't go out and exercise. On Tuesday, mostly sunny, 58. Wednesday, mostly sunny, 59. And on Thursday, best day of the week to be out there. Thursday, 64 for the high. And on Friday, also 64. So a couple of great days to be getting out at the end of the week. Make sure that you're doing all of that. Hey, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be posting to the website, or I shouldn't say the website, the Google Classroom, how you can reach me for office hours. I'm going to be on Tuesday the 6th and Wednesday the 5th, rather, of this week. I'm going to be having office hours. You can find me between 10 and 11 on Zoom. Those things will be out there. And I also send a link to you in the email if you want to catch up with me about anything that I've stated today or things that I'll state tomorrow. Or if you're just looking for something to reach out to, you're just kind of bored at home and wanting to reach out to somebody, I'm going to be there. Yeah, I'm willing to talk to you. I am going to be telecommuting. This is new for me. I'm going to be telecommuting to Boise on Thursday and Friday. I'm not going to be available as I'll be doing my things with the Professional Standards Commission on Thursday and Friday. And so you won't be able to get in touch with me on those days. But then I'll be here every day next week in a format similar to this. If you can, share my video with classmates online in case they're bored or whatever. I'd just like to get out there. Heck, maybe even get a few things on my YouTube channel make me look cool. One of the things I'm also wanting you guys to keep in mind is social distancing. Like I said before, is not social isolation. So be sure to call, text, email somebody. Make sure you're getting in touch with somebody so they know what's going on. Make sure, hey, that you care. Okay, very similar to what I'm doing with you right now. And remember, always as I wrap up, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars.